My name is Maggie Wells. I am 22 years old, and I live in Bend, Oregon. Let me tell you a story about how I finally found justice for a dog named Bean and myself after a painful breakup that could have destroyed us both. For a while, my life seemed normal, just a college student with a part-time job and a deep love for animals. I have always been the kind of person who would go out of my way to help a dog in need. I grew up with dogs, and they were the center of my world. But then my relationship with my ex-girlfriend, whom I will refer to as Bumhole, because that's exactly what she was to me in the end, started to unravel, and it put Bean, a scarred little dog with a tragic past, right in the middle of my heartbreak. When the story starts, I was only 18 and naive to the real complexities of love and cruelty. Bean was a dog that my ex had rescued from a horrible set of circumstances. Her first owners treated her terribly. They beat her, poured boiling water on her, and even burnt her with a fire poker. Because of that, Bean was covered in scars and missing patches of fur. She was terrified of men and had a lot of fear in her eyes. But I had always believed that love and patience could heal her wounds. My ex and I had been together for 2 years, since high school through our first year of college. At first, everything seemed fine between us. A year into our relationship, Bumhole told me she was getting Bean. I was excited to meet this dog who had such a tragic story and hoped I could help her find happiness. Bean was skin and bones when Bumhole took her in, but slowly started gaining weight, a sign that she was beginning to be cared for. For a while, Bean and I got along well. Eventually, Bean seemed comfortable enough to go on walks with both of us and my own dog. It felt like we were becoming one big family. Then the pandemic hit, and our college schedules changed drastically. We could no longer walk our dogs together. That was when I started noticing a sharp decline in Bean's health. She kept gaining weight until she became obese. And worse, she started to smell terrible, and her fur was covered in dandruff. I was worried and confronted Bumhole about what was going on. What I found out terrified and enraged me. Bumhole had not walked Bean even once since our schedules changed, which was nearly 10 months at that point. Worse, she had not bathed her either, explaining the smell and dandruff. When I pointed out the neglect, she shrugged and said something cruel. At least I do not beat her like the last owners. I was furious. How could someone treat such a fragile dog so callously? I begged her to do better, to care for Bean properly, but it was like talking to a wall. Nothing changed. Bean's condition worsened, and our relationship deteriorated into constant fights. Bumhole told me that Bean was not my dog, so it was not my business. That hurt, because I did love Bean, and I believed in the power of compassion. I felt helpless and angry, stuck between wanting to help Bean and the toxic relationship that trapped me. Things came to a head when a mutual friend caught Bumhole cheating on me. I knew then that I had to leave her, but I was terrified about Bean's future. I could not bear the thought of the dog suffering anymore at Bumhole's hands. So I began collecting evidence, photos, videos, proof of neglect that I could use to secure Bean's well-being. Then I confronted Bumhole. I told her I was ending the relationship, but I also showed her the evidence of her neglect. I told her that I was taking Bean with me, or I would send everything to her friends and family to expose her, because Bumhole had never insured Bean or had her microchipped, and because she never had any real proof of ownership. It was easy for me to take Bean away legally. It was the only way to protect her. Bean came home with me that night, and I vowed to restore her health and happiness. Over the months, Bean transformed. She lost the excess weight, her skin cleared up, and her scars no longer defined her spirit. She became the joyful dog I knew she could be, best friends with my other dog, and filled with a love that reflected the care she deserved. Meanwhile, Bumhole did not take kindly to losing us. She began bad-mouthing me to everyone we knew, trying to paint me as the villain. I decided to fight back with the truth. I shared the evidence with her friends, family, and anyone who would listen. Suddenly, people I knew turned their backs on her. The reputation she so desperately tried to keep crumbled, and she ended up isolated with no real friends left. Losing Bean may have been the last straw for her, but for me, it was the beginning of reclaiming my life and peace. Looking back now, I realize how much that experience taught me about strength, love, and standing up for what is right. Bean saved me as much as I saved her. We both escaped a harmful situation and found healing together. If you ever find yourself in a situation where someone you love is hurting the innocent, do not stay silent. Sometimes, the toughest battles are worth fighting, and the sweetest victories come from protecting those who cannot protect themselves.